Research shows us that only 23% of people are actively engaged at work, and this is estimated to cost the global economy 8.9 trillion US dollars, or 9% of GDP. Clearly, this is a huge challenge for organisations of all sectors and sizes. But what can leaders do about it? Here to talk through this with us today is Jon Hall, Head of Consulting for Impact UK. Jon, thank you for joining us on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm very good, thanks. Yes, look, it's Friday, so it's
It
a good
is
day.
Friday. That's right. It is Friday as we record this. So, yes, the weekend will soon be upon us. Thank you for joining us, and we'll get to the kind of the questions that we're going to ask you about employee engagement in one moment. But before we do that, just to give our audience the chance to get to know you a little bit better, why don't you tell us about yourself in 60 seconds?
Sure, I'll see if I can manage to do that. As you've mentioned, Head of Consulting here at Impact. For my sins, I've been in this role now for just over 2 years, and I'm actually just celebrating my 20th year as an employee here at Impact. So,
Wow.
it doesn't seem to have been that long, to be honest. It's gone very quickly. And things have changed an awful lot during that time from when I first started at Impact, where I would do most of my work probably here in the Lake District, where our head office is based. And then a period of time when almost everything I did, I was getting on a plane and flying somewhere around the world and going working with people face to face. And now, ironically, I spend most of my time working in the Lake District again, but this time quite often talking to people on a screen and through a microphone, like I'm talking to you now, of course. So, yeah, lots of things have changed, some that we perhaps weren't quite expecting as well. I've had a lifetime really of working in the field of experiential learning and people development, and also in my early career working in the outdoors as well. So it's very much a part of my DNA. I think it's who I am. It's what I do. It's both of those things. But I feel like I've had a few different careers whilst having the same one, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you for that introduction, because I think that the joy of kind of this project that we've been working on with this podcast and interviewing internal people from Impact is that, you know, I'm getting the opportunity to get to know my colleagues better than I thought I already did. So it's great to kind of get some insights from you there, and to tap into your 20 years of experience with Impact will be very valuable, I'm sure. So let's find out a little bit more about the topic of today's episode. So we're here today to talk about employee engagement, but first of all, maybe the question that we should open with is, what do we mean when we're talking about employee engagement?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, I think. For me, employee engagement is about having employees who are doing the work that they want to do. They look forward to coming to work, to doing the job that's asked of them. They feel like they can show up as the best version or a better version of themselves. And really apply that to the work that they're doing. They feel like they own what they do, they believe in what they do, and they get the support and the encouragement and the recognition that they need to keep doing that consistently. And I think also the development is a big part of that as well. So engaged employees and employees who are really able to fulfill their potential that they have and to grow in the roles that they're in.
Maybe it would also be worth looking at what does employee engagement look like when it's working well, and then maybe what does employee disengagement look like? Maybe it'd be good to just kind of frame those two things together.
Sure. Well, I think engaged employees, as I mentioned before, they can really not just show up as themselves, but they tend to be more proactive. They tend to be leaning in, trying to do the best all the time, asking for support where they need it, asking for work where they haven't got enough, looking to grow. Well, not just asking for it, but creating it as well. Looking for where they can get involved, where they can add value, and where they can support other people around them as well. So they kind of invest in the organization that they work for, I think I would say, and they invest them whole selves in that. So I think that's when it's working. That's what you see.
And so disengagement.
Oh, in a way, the answer is obvious. It's the opposite of all that, isn't it?
Yeah.
People reluctant to show up to work. They do the minimum, possibly avoiding things which they don't particularly like doing. Not always being open and honest, being careful about what they say, and who they talk to. Yeah.
And so
definitely don't
what
feel safe.
challenges does that disengagement present for leaders?
I think it's a huge challenge because people can be good at hiding that as well. So unless you're paying attention, you don't always notice. People can be good at just doing enough when they're disengaged to get by and not get found out. And that can be very difficult both to spot sometimes, but also to do something about for managers. But you then feel like you can't really rely on people. You don't know perhaps to what extent you can trust someone to do things. And you may not know that actually so much more is possible and achievable as well. So I think it's huge challenges for leaders and managers.
What are maybe some of the signs that leaders can look out for that might, because as you've already mentioned, it is quite hard to spot, but what might be, I don't know, the top 3 things that leaders can look out for to kind of start maybe making some changes to improve that engagement?
I think you'll probably would notice an absence of genuine enthusiasm and excitement. You'd probably notice a lot less proactivity and much more reactivity. I think that'll be quite obvious. And I think you would probably notice if you were paying attention, that you just would find it difficult to make a genuine connection with this person if they were disengaged.
And so what then would be the sort of maybe the first step that leaders can take to help improve on that employee engagement?
Well, I think the very first step is quite obvious for me. Is really you need to be paying attention. You need to be noticing what's going on for the people that you lead, the people in your team, the people around you. Because when you pay attention, you will notice. It's when you're not paying attention and you're not looking forward for it that you tend to miss it. If you're just focusing on the task, you'll notice what's going on with the tasks, but you won't notice what's going on for your people. If you focus on your people, then you'll pick up on the signals.
That's a great piece of advice. And in terms of, so say what, I guess, what's step 2? What would be going from that noticing stage?
Step 2?
Yeah.
Well, people talk about Gen Z as one of their characteristics is they're purpose driven. It's interesting that I actually think we're all purpose driven. It's just what is the purpose that drives us? So one of the first steps I think you can definitely take with people is to help people find a sense of purpose in the work that they're doing, which is meaningful for them. And that purpose might be, around their career, and themselves. It might be about the organization, or it might be a higher level purpose, which is more about the impact that they can have on the world, or sort of wider society. Who knows? But we all have that as a basic human fundamental need, a sense of meaning and purpose that we want to have in our lives. And if we don't have that, it's difficult to feel engaged. I think that's definitely one of the key ingredients. Another one would be a sense of connection, being seen and being valued as both as a human being, but also valued for what you can do. And for some people, it's more important to be valued for what they can do based on their capabilities. For some people, it's a bit more about seeing you for who you are as a human being, not just for what you can do. We all need a bit of both, of course, but for some people, one is perhaps a bit more important than the other.
Well, I'm interested also as we're talking, I wonder if and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm kind of hearing like the employee engagement. It seems like a lot of this is down to the almost down to the leader to resolve. But I think, is there a kind of sense of ownership from the individual maybe, that, or do you think that it is Do you maybe see where I'm trying to go with that
Yeah,
question?
I mean, I think it takes two people to dance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, of course, both people need to want to dance in the first place.
Mm,
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot written, isn't it, about motivation, how much of that is intrinsic and how much of that is extrinsic.
mm,
I'm a big believer that motivation primarily has to come from within, from yourself. But what
mhm,
leaders can do is they can create the conditions where it's easier for people to do that
mhm,
and
mhm,
to show up
mhm,
as themselves. Is a phrase I think I'm overusing already, and I will probably use again. But I do think for me that's a hugely important thing.
mhm,
So, so leaders can help create that sense of purpose and meaning for people. But some people are very good at creating that for themselves, of course.
mhm,
But as leaders, if we can tune into that, what is important to someone, and we can help them find that for themselves and find work that helps them connect to that and feel they're fulfilling that, then that's brilliant. In a similar way, yes, people can make the effort to make their own connections, but
mhm,
it takes two
mhm,
tango, as I already mentioned. So the leader needs to also reciprocate in that regard. I think. I mean, there's a lot talked about psychological safety these days. It's a
mhm,
popular term.
mhm,
Those two things are a big part of psychological safety for me, particularly that latter piece. If people feel heard and seen as a person, they have a voice that's paid attention to, that they are trusted, and that they
mhm,
can trust others, and they won't be judged for asking silly questions or getting
mhm,
things wrong.
mhm,
Yeah, those kinds of things. Uh, so I think that's where the leader makes a difference, is by creating those conditions.
mhm,
So those are all some of them. And I think the one other thing I've not mentioned, perhaps, I think is critical. We all kind of have a sense that we want to know how things work around here, how we fit in. So there's a bit of structure in there, which, like, on a simple level, it's roles and responsibilities, but it's much more than that. It's more, how do things work around here, and how do I fit in with how
mhm.
things work around here as well? It's a fundamental human need, described in some psychological circles as human hungers, things,
Mm.
and we need to be
Uh,
sated
yeah.
with those
Uh,
hungers in order to feel
yeah.
we can then be ourselves and perform at our best.
Mm. It's
I
so
have a
true. And
daughter.
as you've been talking there, it makes me reflect on some of the episodes that we've recorded around this series about some of the soft skills, I guess, within leadership that can be, and I wonder if it would be good to get your take on some of the soft skills that can be developed in order to give a leader the sort of the toolkit that they need in order to help all of the things that you've been talking about here to help that employee engagement. One that springs to mind: listening, empathy. Well, there's two there, but the what, from your point of view, maybe including those, would be some of those other soft skills that can be focused
Yeah.
on to help this.
Well, I mean, definitely listening and empathy. They are really core skills, and
Mm,
they're fundamental to making a connection. So I kind of there's a colleague of mine who talks about three things which I really like. So I mean, let's start with connection first of all.
mm,
Um, if you're talking about dealing with people, then if you don't make a human connection with them first of all, then the quality of that interaction, how they and how they feel about you and about themselves, is going to be significantly diminished.
mm,
So yeah, that ability to focus on the person in front of you, be here now, is another old sort of cliche that was around probably 20 years ago now, showing how old I am. But you be there for your people, make a human connection
mm,
first before diving into whatever it is you need to talk about. For me, that's fundamental.
mhm,
I would kind of put alongside that, uh, being clear, what is your intention when you're communicating with, when you're talking to your people? What is it you want, um, your impression is that you want to leave on them once you have that communication? And if you have a positive intention, which is around building a connection, helping that person understand or get what they need, not just what you need from that interaction, that's hugely different. If you're not clear what your intention is, or you're distracted by something else, then that interaction is nearly always going to go badly. It's not going to go as well as you want it to. Um, I, I can think of some examples of that. But I think the third thing I'll mention after that is then attention. And it's so easy to allow attention to drift and to start being distracted by other things. I mean, a classic example now is the mobile phone. And if you're having a conversation with someone and you've got your mobile phone in your hand, right? If it vibrates, if it pings, or your watch goes, if you've got one of these fancy Apple watches, then instantly your attention is taken away, and that shows. If your mind's really somewhere else, on something else, and you're not really tuned into that conversation, then your attention's not there. That shows. So I think those things are really important.
And especially on. Sorry, I totally interrupted, but especially, just calling out the fact that we're having this conversation remotely, as are most of the people in the world nowadays, where we're having a conversation through a computer. All you have to do is have a window open that has Teams messages or emails or something like that, and then again, same problem. And so that's, I think, a real challenge that leaders must be having around the world. Where
absolutely. And it's great you got me to switch on my do not disturb before we started this thing. Otherwise, that would have been happening for me. If something pings up and you see it, you can't then unsee it.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Sorry, I interrupted you as you were about to say another thing.
All I was going to do was summarize, and that's not a problem.
Well, there's been some great things picking up there. So I guess maybe if we could get a small soundbite from you, which would be, what would be your, if you could think of one top, main tip that you could articulate into one sentence, what would be your number one top tip for improving employee engagement?
Remember, your employees are human beings. They're not a resource that you can squeeze the most out of, but they're human beings just like you that want to feel seen, valued, and respected for who they are and what they can do, both in work, but also for many people out of work as well. So be interested, be curious about your people. What is it that motivates them, that they're interested in, and how you can support them in bringing their best selves to work. I think if you do those things, you go a long way towards having highly engaged employees that look forward to working with you as a partner rather than for you as a boss.
Amazing. Jon, I knew you were the right person to ask that question to. Thank you ever so much. We've reached the end our time for today's episode, but before I do let you go, we always ask our guests the same question at every episode. It's a question that I have no doubt that you've delivered and asked other people before as well, which is that moment of self-reflection, that moment of looking back on your own life, your own career. So if you were to start your career again, knowing what you know now, what would be your advice to your younger self?
That might be quite a long list, but I'm going to go for what might, I'm afraid, be a bit of a cliche in a way. It's just to believe in yourself more. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything or be all things to all people to be successful in the world. To be liked and be appreciated. You just actually just need to go out and be you and do the best that you can, and then be open to learning from what comes from that. It's that process, I think, of just being willing to take risks, put yourself out there, and then being open to learning and changing that helps us all grow and get closer to the best version of ourselves we can be. Another cliche. I seem to be spewing cliches today. I apologize.
That's absolutely fine. Sometimes the cliches are cliches because they're true. And I always kind of ask the question back is that, do you live by your own advice now?
I would say at my best, absolutely. At my worst, definitely not. I try to be at my best most of the time. I wish I could be all of the time. I'm not perfect yet.
No, and I don't think any of us are, Jon, to be honest. But Jon, that's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you ever so much. I've even in that past 20 minutes or so learned so much, and I'm sure our audience will have too. So thank you ever so much for giving us your time, your experience, and your knowledge and your wisdom to that episode. So thank you. And that just leaves me to say, if you'd like to find out any more about what you've heard today, then you'll find all of the links that you need in the description of where you found today's episode. So thank you once again to Jon Hall for joining me today. And until the next time, take care.
Hey.